Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everything in between. Welcome back to the Novice Lumberjack. This right here is the Jonsered 625. I'll go ahead and take that off there. Bing. That's handy. I really like using this thing. I really prefer this over the degree wheel. Once I learned how to use it, you know. Learn how to use it. It just, man, it's handy dandy. So anyways, get those from Dino Joe. I wish I remembered his website, but I don't. Look up Dino Joe Mods on YouTube and go to his about, and he'll have a link to his store online, and you can buy one of those setups. Reasonably priced too. So anyways, the piston came in. I got a Duke's ceramic coated piston. Why do we ceramic coat pistons? To reduce the friction against the cylinder wall. That is that's a tie-in to a different subject. Yes, your piston touches the cylinder wall. The only thing standing in between complete and total metal-to-metal contact is the oil that we use, and even that breaks down, and that's why your piston wears. So, enough of that. I've got good news, and I got really good news. All right? So, the good news is that the Duke's piston was taller than the factory piston. So this thing, whenever I got it, was not running a base gasket, and it had 27 thousandths squish. And I was like, you know, that's good squish numbers. That's really good squish numbers. I don't think I'll do any machine work. But then, you know, the day comes, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, how easy would it be to drop it down to 20 thousandths? And, in turn, what that's going to do, it's going to give me more intake duration, as well as raise my exhaust roof, lower my exhaust roof, which is usually a good thing. But I measured with the Duke's piston, and my squish was at 21 thousandths of an inch. Can't get a whole lot better than that. Yeah, you can add more compression if you want to by cutting the squish and making the combustion chamber smaller, but I'm not looking to go that in depth with this saw. It ran great, and that was all stock, not even a real muffler mod. I mean, yeah, the screen was removed, but not a proper muffler mod. So I was like, well, that's good. That settles that. I put it on, and here's the really good news. Man, Jonsered. I don't know if the Husky 61s were like this or not. My guess are, I have my doubts. Jonsered has a different intake setup. Look how big that intake is right there from factory. I did not enlarge it. We'll talk about that. I did not enlarge it. My goodness. That's excellent. That is supreme, really. And so, considering that they had these cylinders molded specifically for the Jonsered saws, this does not, I mean, you could make it work on a Husky 61, but the Husky 61 has that intake block, whereas this Jonsered 625 has a boot that slides over it. So that is clearly a superior design right there, by my way of thinking anyways. And then I got to looking at the numbers, and the numbers were just, I mean, you could improve on them for sure, but for what it is, my goodness, perfect. It's so good numbers. So the intake opening was at 72, which is a little bit small, a little bit short duration, but that's going to give you a good snappy throttle response, and it should be good. Or it definitely was. We saw how this thing ran. The other thing, the exhaust opening was at 104.5, which is also really good. It's going to lead to really good torque, right? And the transfers were 124.6, so it had a spot on 20 degrees of blowdown, which is also really good. And so I thought, well, I want to improve on it a little bit, but I don't want to do a whole lot of work. This is a simple saw. It's open port design. I'm not going to beat myself up to try and find 0.2 horsepower. So what I did, I lowered the intake floor down to 70. It's 77. So good there in my book. 77. Like I said, I'm not looking for a crazy screamer or anything. I loved the torque that this thing had. I don't want to ruin that. So it's 77 on the intake now. I did not widen it or anything. I think it's plenty big enough. It's got a good, big, open intake. The exhaust, I raised it to 102. Yep, 102, which is going to be just probably spot right on perfect, I think. I also did not enlarge it any. I'm not looking to get high RPM screams out of this or anything. And it's going to have a good open exhaust. The exhaust is going to flow out. The transfers, they had 20 degrees of blow down. Well, now, since I raised that exhaust roof, we're looking at they're going to have 22 degrees of blow down. So what I did, I did my little thing where I just make those little tiny notches. You can see them there. All those are just little notches. Little notches. Now, with my little notches, no, those come on at 118 degrees. So they come on at 16 degrees of blowdown, and then the rest of the transfers come on at, actually, I still measured it. It was still 20 degrees of blowdown. But it's probably, nothing specific in this game, guys. Nothing is. If you're watching these videos and you think that everything is spot on the no, all of us guys, we see a marker, we get it as close as we can, and we go, yeah, I think that's 78. Because you're measuring things with your bare eye, and hell, my vision's keeps getting worse and worse. But anyway, so what I have that I've measured out is 16 degrees of blowdown for those little notches, and 20 degrees of blowdown for the rest of the transfers to come on. So now I want to talk about that just a touch, just a tick here. I think that I've made it very clear from the beginning. I've tried to that I'm not the best thing in this world of porting. But I get good results, and my customers are happy, and it's really good. I'm doing good, but my point is those little tiny notches. Everything is happening so fast inside this engine. So fast. Am I going to see a difference in power if I do that entire transfer port? I don't know, maybe. Personally, I don't think that I will. But I do think that adding those little notches there will give me power over stock. It will give me power over stock, and for two reasons. One, you have a longer duration of your transfers being open, and so you will be able to flow more fuel in, even though that's just a little teeny tiny notch. But the bigger thing is the flow dynamics. Those little notches are pointed back towards the intake, and so they will give the initial push to start moving the exhaust gases out the exhaust. That's why I do them. I think that they make a difference. So far, I've not done one with them and then went back, or done one without them, then went back and then redid it. That's a lot of extra work. I'm getting good results, and I'm happy, and customers are happy, and it works out. And Moreover, I learned a long time ago, if you guys didn't know about this, you're going to probably get a laugh. I used to manage a Waffle House. This was around the 2008 time frame. Long story, but jobs were scarce. And there's nothing wrong with managing a Waffle House. I just didn't see myself there. But it was a great experience. After it was over, it's a good. I've got good stories to tell, man. Oh, there was a gang of lesbians that used to frequent my Waffle House. I say gang, just a group of particularly masculine ladies that like to pick fights and get into fights. I mean, real fights. Blood. No. Anyways, Waffle House. Whew. But my point in bringing that up is I learned not to make a single step unless it goes towards progress, your end goal. And what I think in a saw like this, that I am looking for this to be a really good daily use type of saw. All right, really good firewood saw. I want it to outperform what it did stock, and I want it to create a lot of smiles. I don't want it to win races. I don't care, So in a saw like this, why would I go the extra distance to raise the entire transfers whenever raising that little notch is going to do just as well? That's my thoughts. Because by the time that piston, it's moving so fast, by the time the piston moves those extra 4 degrees or 6 degrees and gets to the main transfers, right? How do I put this? I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. I don't think so. Now, if I was building a full tilt saw, we'd be looking at this differently. But I personally do not think that every ported saw should be full tilt. I don't think it should be. And I think that if you're a porter and you're out there making every single cylinder as good as you can possibly make it, well, that's fine and dandy. It really is. But I just feel like you're just wasting your time. Perfect example is going to be, I'm going to have here soon, Chad is going to let me port his MS400. Now, I had a similar thought about what I'm going to talk about earlier, but I got to give a little bit of credit where it's due. Cajun had mentioned something that I had, like I said, it was already in my head, but him saying it just kind of solidified it, right? And that is, I bet you the MS400 doesn't need any port work. I bet you don't need anything. Because you don't gain RPMs. Whenever you're doing these M-tronic saws, you don't gain RPMs. Now, if you think that you gain RPMs, what you're actually doing is seeing a higher RPM because the saw has more torque to carry those higher RPMs. So if I'm running 24-inch bar in red oak with my MS400, I'm going to look down and I'm going to say this thing is struggling to put forth 10,500 RPMs. Okay? But then, well, actually, I just did that. It was probably putting out 11,000. Let's say let's go with 11,000. But it's kind of struggling to do it. 11,000, 24-inch bar in red oak. Well, then I poured it, and now it'll do 11,500 RPMs. Did I gain RPMs? No. What I gained was the ability to carry those RPMs that the saw would naturally do. So, like if you took the saw and you put it in a smaller piece of wood, it would be capable of carrying 11,500 RPMs. The computers in those saws, or the chips, the programming, whatever, however you want to look at it, will only let them run at a certain RPM range. The MS400, my guess would be free spin, you're not getting more than 12,000 RPMs. It just, no, it won't let you do it. You can't measure it because the tack won't read it. You know, my tack won't. So, am I actually gaining RPMs? No. The port job just created the torque that you needed in order to maintain your RPMs in the larger wood. See what I'm saying? So, my thoughts are, and Cajun's thoughts, possibly, I haven't broken one of these things down. I don't know. My thoughts are that with the MS400 and a lot of those M-tronic saws, they're so good from the factory that the best that you can do is lower the cylinder. Cut the squish band and then lower the cylinder so that you get your proper squish distance. All right? So if I take that MS400 and I just cut the squish band, drop it, and cut the base and drop it, you're going to increase the torque because you have minimized your combustion chamber, and you are also going to increase the torque because of your exhaust being lowered. You'll have more time in your power stroke. All right? The intake will also open up slightly more as well, but honestly, I don't know if that's going to make any difference at all. But my point is I'm going to take Chad's and I'm going to do it traditional because he's a paying customer. I'm going to do it traditional, and I'm going to port it the way that I would any saw that I got paid to port, to do as good as I can for the amount of money being spent, right? And, you know, I'm certain that I'll do the little things like, you know, they'll probably have stuff like this right here, which I go, oh, I can cut that out, you know. They'll have things like that in them, and I'll do all that stuff. I'll polish the exhaust. I'll do it all. I'll do it all with Chad's. But with mine, all I'm going to do is lower that damn cylinder. And then we'll see. We'll put them both in the wood, and we'll see how much of a difference it makes to spend the extra 2 hours grinding and grinding away. But my theory, and it seems to be it's a bit of Cajun's theory as well, is that I bet you all you got to do to an MS400, probably the 562, the 550, all those saws, just drop them down. Boop. So anyways, I'm going to get on a muffler mod for this guy, and in the future, look forward to seeing this guy in the wood. I think it's going to run swell, and I think it's going to be probably right there with the 562. I don't know. We'll see. Later.